Good morning, grandkids. It's time for another chapter about young Dorkly, young wizard Dorkly. This is chapter 50. We're going to be getting close to the end of this one of these days, within a month, maybe. After young wizard Dorkly and his two young acolytes, Grizz and Shuffle, arrive on High Rock, and are in their rooms at the inn, they have a look around. There are 3 cots in there and a table with 3 stools. Dorkly places his scrying bowl on the table, not sure if he will be using it. Boys, I think my potions and maybe that seeing belt that I had made for the king some time back will be of better use while we're here. Right now, I'm hungry. Me too, both Grizz and Shuffle said. They left the room and walked a little ways up the street to a cafe called the Lion's Cafe. Its sign hanging by the door was a rough board with a lion's head carved on it under the name. They entered and sat down around a table and ordered mugs of mead. Putting their heads together, they started making plans about where they should go and about what spying methods to use. Major Dupree and General Gable, after a hard session of training workouts with the militia here in High Rock, sit down at a table in the barracks, placing their helmets on the floor and looking around for where the showers might be. Near them were standing 2 guards talking. Sergeant Gable asks one of them where the showers might be. The guards grin and one says, "Through that door over there." Sergeant Gable goes to see and comes back with a glum look on his face, looks at Dupree and shakes his head. Dupree goes to check it out himself and sees a wooden bucket hanging from the rafters full of water and a rope hanging from it. He comes back to the table with the same glum look on his own face. He sees one of the men still grinning and says, yeah, very funny. Dorkly and his guys walk from the lower city and enter the main street of High Rock. No one pays any attention to them, as the court's own wizards are often out and about in the city streets. Stopping at one of the clothing stands, Dorkly picks up a long braided red cord with tiny tinkling bells on the ends. "Look at this, boys. These would look pretty nice tied around our gray robes. We'd be looking pretty good standing in court by our king. You like?" "Sure, I like it," Gruff said. With this scruffy fuzz on my face, I need something to make me look better." "I like it too," smiled Shuffle. So Dorkly bought them each one. They took off their dark gray ones and dropped them into a nearby rubbish barrel. They tied on their new red ones around their gray robes and went tinkling down the street with a dimpled smile on Dorkly's face. After meandering around several businesses, cafes, and bars, they found themselves back down near the docks again. They sat down at an outdoor table in front of an old pub. Their bells tinkled and they ordered some food. They were hungry and their feet were tired. They took off their pointy hats and put them on the table. Dorkly was running his fingers through his long brown hair and smoothed his beard and mustache that he was starting to grow. As they were eating, they found themselves picking up some of the conversation between 2 rough-looking guys at a table nearby. "Hey, Jones, that Quentin guy from the palace came by this morning. Got me a fair bit of coin again from him," Ziggy smiled. "Yeah?" Jones replied. What do you want this time? Same thing. A message delivered to that madam at that shack on the docks. That place called Your Delight, Ziggy said. That creepy place, Jones laughed. I wouldn't go there my own self. The three wizards near them looked at each other. Then Dorkly looked at the two men and motioned to catch their eye. Hey, he said in a lowered voice, want to make some more coin? Sure. What's going on? Jones asked as they slid their chairs over and propped their arms on the table. Dorkly ordered drinks for all of them as he looked the men over. They were both scruffy and dirty. Jones had a big scar from the top of his forehead back across the side of his head. The hair wouldn't grow along it, but hair grew profusely on his lip. The other one, Ziggy, was younger, and one of his eyes slanted over the wrong way. Creepy. Dorkly said, I'll give you each 2 gold coins if you'll tell me what you were talking about concerning Quentin. Sure, Ziggy said. Money's money, wherever it comes from. But hey, why are wizards paying for information? Don't you guys use your magic or something to find out stuff? Yes, once we know where to look. And who to look at, Dorkly grinned, staring Ziggy in the eyes. The two ruffians looked a little worried, but Jones finally said, Quentin comes once in a while and will pay us to pass notes for him to the madam down the hill at that dump called Your Delight. What happens to it there, I don't want to know. Dorkly said, thanks, men. He handed over their gold coins as he and Grizz and Shuffle got up hastily and left. They meandered down the hill until they found Your Delight on the docks. Looks more like a pigsty than a delight to me, Gruff said. Smells more like a pigsty down here, too, said Shuffle. Dorkly said, I want you boys to wait out here, sort of as lookouts. I'll only be in there a minute. And he entered the door. It was dim inside, but he could see a large woman sitting at a table near the door. She had tightly curled black hair with thick, pouty-looking lips and heavy makeup. She was dressed in a brightly sequined dress, cut so low that she was about to pop out of the top of it. She watched Dorkly closely as he walked in. What can I do for you, little monk? She smiled at him. I'm not a monk. I'm a wizard, Dorkly said without smiling. I've got some gold coin for information I was told that you could give me. She dropped her smile and lifted her eyebrows as she looked him over. And what might that be? Dorkly had the seeing belt on under his robe, which he had made for King Conley a while back. He stood directly in front of her and said, Quentin, the king's son, has notes passed to you. I want to know about them. He was looking directly into her eyes. As she proceeded to tell him a bunch of lies, the spell on his belt was showing Dorkly the truth of her inner thoughts. He now knew that she had read the notes before passing them on to an assassin who would eventually be paid to kill King Brigham, leaving Quentin heir to the throne after his daughter took care of his youngest brother, King Conley, and a few others in Bluehaven. Dorkly turned and hurried out the door, while the madam sat there with a smiling smirk on her face, thinking that she had deceived him. Outside, Dorkly said, "Come on, boys, we've got to get to King Brigham fast." Advisor Sherman and Mr. Farthington, Major Farthington, were escorted into the king's court. King Brigham is getting old, and with his gray hair and slumped shoulders, he was looking it. The two men proceeded to tell the king all that they had learned so far, concluding when Advisor Sherman says, "I think that your son Marshall is behind all that's going on, although Major Farrington here has a different opinion." The king looked at Major Farthington and said, "Fenray, right? I remember seeing you a few times back in our younger days, although you were much younger than myself." He smiled and went on. "So what is your opinion of what's going on?" "Well, sire, I believe, sad to say, that your son Quentin is the culprit, especially since it's his daughter who's mainly involved. She's in Blue Haven, and I believe she's being held in prison by your youngest son, King Conley." Major Farrington explained quickly. He wanted her execution, but has been held off by his advisors until you've been informed. As they spoke, it seemed King Brigham's face was getting redder, and his temper was rising. When they were finished, the king, with a stormy look in his eyes, turned to the guards and almost shouted, "Get my sons in here, and send for my granddaughter Gertrude, now." He waited a second and then shouted, "Put them all in holding cells until I feel like convening court again," and he stormed out of the courtroom. So we will see what's going to happen now and what this king is going to do. So I hope you'll come back with me next Friday, and let's see what's happening. Bye-bye, grandkids.